worry for people who are asking. Everything is good. I'm enjoying the new house. Yeah, keeping busy for sure. And looking forward to teaching the class today. So, how's everyone doing? It's been, weird not getting to see everyone in class and stuff every week. It's also been nice to have a break, especially because I've been so busy with moving. So it's been nice to have time to do it. Yeah. All right, so we'll get started. So today I wanted to talk about 3 different things for this section for self-expression and exploration. So the first thing I want to talk about is thinking. So for me, there's to really be your own dancer, and we're talking about self-expression and exploration. So thinking is one of the most important factors for that to be able to happen. So what do I mean by thinking? I mean, if you go to class and you learn some moves in a certain order, often like they teach combos or patterns, and then you just execute that the way that you learn them every time you go out social dancing, then you're not thinking, you're not bringing a lot of self-expression and exploration into your dancing, right? So I suggest that you try to think. So it can be things like, okay, so at the end of this move, I'm in this position and I usually do this, but what else could I do in that position, right? So it's about, thinking and kind of exploring ideas and options. And it's not about being right all the time. You probably will make a lot of mistakes, or you'll probably find a lot of things that don't work, but you'll probably find things that work. So for me personally, when I teach, I try to create dancers that think and are creative. And because I try to teach how the dance fits together, instead of teaching a lot of patterns, I try to teach just like, oh, we have this basic movement, and then we can, add this to it or do this to it, and then it gives you like a more like bigger understanding of what you can do with what you know. And that also you don't need to do like every movement that you're ever taught. There's movements, like for me personally, because I'm not very tall, there's movements that I can't do very well. For example, turns that require me to have my arms like this across. Then if I have a follow that's much taller than me, I am not going to be able to execute those very easily. Or things like where a follow has to go like under my arm because I don't have a big arm circle that I can do. But things where I'm going under someone or an arm or something because I'm quite small, I can do those very easily, where someone who'd be taller would have a hard time. So there's movements that are going to feel good to some people and movements that are not going to feel good. But you want to explore what feels good to you, especially when we're not, for me, like I'm always trying to teach for social dancing. I'm not teaching a choreography. It's of course very different when you're practicing a choreography that you're going to perform and you need to do all the movements that are in a choreography. But when you're talking about dancing for fun, for yourself on a social dance floor, you kind of want to figure out what you like, what works well for you. And sometimes you can transform the movements, and it's a lot like a language, right? Like it's like you learn all these phrases, like where to go to the washroom, how to order food and things like that in another language, but you don't actually understand the verbs and the sentence structure and all of that. You just kind of get by with a few phrases. So thinking is bringing in more of the understanding of the phrase structure and all of that in the language. And to me, dance is a lot like a language. So there's like basic concepts for every dance, every social dance, but there's also a lot of freedom. But you can only find that freedom by understanding the rules, because that's when you can break them and still be able to dance with a partner and flow together, right? If you're just breaking all the rules, then your partner is usually clueless to what you want to do. So I just want to encourage you basically to color outside lines and to think about your dancing and about what you like about your dancing, what you don't like about your dancing, and think about ways where how you could transform what you know. It's not about knowing more things. It's about doing more with what you know. So we're going to leave that at that. And we're going to talk about feeling. So to me, that's another very important part of becoming, a more self-expressive and explorative dancer, is feeling. And there's different things connected to feeling. Just feeling the music, feeling how you feel, feeling your connection with your partner. But to me, it usually starts with the music. So what song is playing right now? How does it make me feel? Because at least to me, like, dance shouldn't be just executing steps. It should also be about expressing yourself on some level, right? And what are you expressing? That's the question. Who are you is one question, and what are you trying to express? But if you take it down to the song, and is this song happy, sad? Like, how does it make you feel? How does it make you want to dance? So you can do the same move, sorry, with a lot of different energies or different feelings behind it. And we're actually going to talk about that in the next section for Kizomba. So just bear with me and kind of hold on to that thought, and we're going to explore it later on. And then the feeling with the partner, right? Does your partner trust you? Is she feeling good? Is she nervous? Is she, styling by herself? How is she or he? How are they with you? So you can try to establish more, connection, more trust, and all those things just by kind of feeling each other out. But you don't want to dance, a level 10, we'll say level 10 dance, if your partner is at level 1, because that's not going to be enjoyable for her or for you, because you're probably going to be pulling your partner around, leaving them in the dust, and they're going to be wondering how to keep up with you. So you want to try to find a middle ground. It's good to challenge your partner, but it's also good to to do things that they're comfortable, to make them comfortable. So you want a mix of things. So especially with partner dancing, it's, you're two people, so you want to try to dance together. At least that's, how I feel about it. So when you have the feeling of the song and you have the feeling with your partner, then to me, what that brings is it's this unique moment where you've never been in this room with this person to this song feeling the way that you're feeling in this moment, right? So if you think about that, or if you let yourself feel that, what I find for me, once I have like a dance vocabulary of any kind, I start doing things that I've never done before because I'm inspired by the moment and what's happening. And, different partners have different strengths and weaknesses. So I will dance differently just because I'm, being inspired by the person I'm dancing with. But also the music is inspiring me to move a certain way. So with those things combined and the way that I'm feeling in that moment too. So with all that combined, I start creating something different. And then, like you do things that you've never done before and you're creating on the spot. And that's a wonderful place to be for me, at least when I get to that place. I'm always, it's really nice to be like, what did I just do? That was nice, but what did I just do? So to me, feeling is a big part of self-expression, because just that it's going to bring things out of you once you stop thinking too much about the steps and start feeling. And the other thing about the thinking part that we talked about before is this is like, the thinking is more for practice time. Social dancing, you want to focus more on the feeling. Right? Because you don't want to be stuck in the thinking. Because when you're stuck in the thinking, you're not connecting with your partner and with your music and with the moment. Which is where, to me at least, the best dances happen, is when all those things come together. So the last thing that we're going to talk about before we start dancing is another really important thing, at least to me, when you want to develop your self-expression and explore, is exploring or thinking about what makes you feel beautiful or handsome for guys. So we've got a lot of people dancing, and they're trying to copy people, like their teachers or their mentors or the people they look up to. But they're often like stuck there, and they don't think, it's like, what makes me feel beautiful? How, if I, for example, what makes me feel beautiful in the way I dress, in the way I do my hair, in I don't know, the song that's playing. What song makes you feel beautiful? What kind of movement makes you feel beautiful or handsome? If you're a guy, there's no problem with that too. So I want everyone maybe to just close your eyes and think about, and breathe. Let's breathe, actually. Let's just breathe in and out. And let go of everything that you're holding on to in this moment, and just go back to a memory or a feeling of being beautiful or handsome, and feel what that feels like. And then if you want, you can start kind of moving your body in any way that you feel. You can be standing up or sitting down, whatever you feel good to do. And do something that makes you feel beautiful with your eyes closed. It doesn't have to be anything specific. Just sway or whatever it is that makes you feel beautiful. So to me, once you're past, like you do have, I guess, to find comfort in your own body. So by learning dance skills, you find more comfort. But beauty is like another step where you are not just comfortable, but you're embodying the movement in a way that makes you feel beautiful. Like the beauty is coming out of you, we'll say, just like the self-expression would be coming out of you. And everyone has their own things. It's not about something being specific. It's about, yeah, loving yourself, about accepting yourself the way you are. We all have something to offer, and we're all a little bit different. And that's a really good thing in any art. I mean, any art form, it's about self-expression. It's about discovering who you are and what makes you feel good, right? So I would really suggest, this week, since a lot of us are in self-isolation and we have a little bit more time than usual, just sit with yourself and really feel yourself being beautiful or handsome, and feel what that feels like, and try to put some music on and try to dance to dance your beauty, you know? So it's maybe not something we do a lot of, because especially as dancers, we're also often very self-critical, and we're, always trying to be better and to learn things, and, but we forget to be beautiful, to feel beautiful, and to express that beauty. And that's when people want to dance with us and they want to talk to us, is when we're confident and we're expressing ourselves and we're feeling beautiful and confident and proud, right? All right. So that's our little 15 minutes first part on self-expression and exploration for today. Hope it give you some food for thought. And that you get something out of it. So for the second part and third part, so we're going to go back to, I had filmed a class like, I don't know, a month ago now, and I had some technical problems, so I couldn't quite do everything that I wanted to do, so I'm going to go back to those things that I wanted to do. So for Kizomba, we're going to do some solo stuff, since, a lot of you don't have partners. So I'm going to teach you pretty much my favorite solo move that I find works well, because it's based on an African dance move. So it works well in Semba, in traditional Kizomba, in Taraksa, Tarakso, Tarashinya. You can use it in Afro beats, Afro house, Kuduro. You can use this move in pretty much all that umbrella, with a few little tweaks and variations. And it's just a move that I like, so I'm going to break it down for you. We're going to break it down in all the little different parts, and then we're going to put it together. So first, maybe let me change the music, and we're going to put the volume up a little bit, and we're going to, I'm going to show you the move that I mean. All right. Let's see. All right, so that's the move we're going to learn today. So maybe I'll bring this up a little bit so you guys can see better. So the base of the movement is the pelvis going up and down, right? That's kind of the beginning of it. So what we want to make sure is we're not bringing our pelvis forward and back, but the middle of the pelvis there on the sides is staying in the same spot. Another very important thing is that we use our abs, because when we don't use our abs and when we have movements like that, we jam in our lower back. Like if I let go of my abs and I just do this, I'm going to hurt my back. So we want to always support with the abs. It's very important, but once you do that, you're not going to have any problems with your back. You're actually developing your core muscles, which is actually very healthy for your back and core and everything. So what we're going to do, we're going to imagine that we have like a rod in here, and we're going to turn it and turn it the other way. So basically, we're trying to keep our rib cage in the same spot, and we're going to rotate our pelvis up. So basically, you're crunching your lower abs up, and then you're keeping the tone in your abs, and then you're reversing. So you're extending your pelvis and your abs back. So it looks like this. So the more you have bend in your knees, the easier this is going to be. So if you're here, you can easily do like a nice big movement, but you're going to see that the more you straighten your legs, the smaller your movement is going to be and the more restriction you have. So if it's your first day doing this, definitely bend your knees a little bit so that it's a lot easier to practice. So basically, we want, like if you were holding a book here, you would never want to go push the book forward, right? You're like really just rotating here. So this is, and don't do too many of these at first because your abs are going to get tired quite quickly. Okay. And you can see it's not a big movement. We're really not looking for a big movement. So for this move that I'm doing, I'm putting the accent back. That means that like in between the beat, I'm like doing this, and then on the beat, I'm hitting back, right? So that's the first movement. So that's something you can practice. Obviously, you need to isolate. I wasn't very good at this. Usually, often we're bringing the chest in at first, and it's hard to isolate. But I promise if you practice, it'll get better and better. So this is the first little thing that you need. And then the second thing we're going to need is a tap step. So we are going to tap step, but not just tap step, but that's the rhythm. So tap, step, tap, step. We can do that forward, tap, step, or back. So that's going to be, the whole time you're doing this move, it's going to be basically on this rhythm, unless you decide to play with the rhythm, which if you were looking at me doing the demo, I did do that a few times. So what we're going to do is instead of tapping, we're going to bring our knee up. So we're going to go 1, 2. So 1, 2, 1, 2. Right? So you're bending your knee, you're putting all your weight on this leg, and then you're bending your knee. You're kind of letting it drop, and then you're putting your foot down. So drop and wait, 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 and you can go, and you can kind of slide it. So, but the main thing is you want this movement, this move. So you're basically rolling your foot, so you're on the ball of your foot and your knee is coming down, your hip can come down, or you can hold your hip depending on the variation you want. You can also bring your hip up, but it just really depends after that. You're kind of playing. So that's the number 2 thing that we want to work on to put this move together. The third thing is a sway. So we are going to sway from one foot to another. That's the first thing. Just put your weight basically from one foot to another. And then we're going to sway in a figure 8. So the shoulder is going to go forward and back, Our whole body is doing this. So the hip, the shoulder, so swaying. Good. So now the next step that I would practice, and you can just practice those 3 for today. That's enough for you. And this class is going to be available. You can come back to it anytime. So the next thing is going to go back to our first movement. So the 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to do this, but we're going to do it transferring just our weight from one foot to another. So if I exaggerate so you can see, I'm doing one like 50-50, and then one on this is my right and left. So if I do that the other way so you guys can follow. So now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to make sure that I'm lifting my heel. So for now, we're going to keep our hip kind of level, because this move you can kind of play with different levels. So we're just going to sway by same thing, but we're going to lift. So roll your heel up, keep the ball of your foot, and bend your knee. So one in the middle and one with the heel up, middle, and heel up. And middle part is like out, right? So like I hit middle and then out. And you can see how my heel is coming up and my knee is going out in the front at the same time as I'm popping back. So in the middle and then pop. Middle, pop, middle, pop. So you want to try to coordinate that, right? So it's hard to do this and talk at the same time because you're using a lot of your ab muscles. So in between, so you're here, and then as you're straightening your leg, you're bringing it back in, and then as you're going 50-50 to go to transfer, you're doing it again, and then as you're starting to bend and prepping on the other side, you're going in, out, right at the end, right? So you have to kind of find a flow. You can think about it, but then after you also need to let it go and kind of flow with it. Right? So we're doing 1 and 2, and 1 and 2, and 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 2 and 1 and 2, and 1 and 2. So the very, very straight hips like this, that's like your taraxo, basically. And then for other styles, you can be more relaxed. So this way. So obviously in taraxo, because you want to be very straight, you don't really use the sway. But in the more traditional sense of this movement, you're going to use a sway. So we were talking about swaying like this. So now, instead of staying straight, so we were basically just facing the front, right? And we were doing 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. So now we're going to do the middle one with 50-50, still straight, but we're going to sway. So on the sides, we're going to be turned like a little bit diagonal. So you see, I'm turning towards the knee that bends on the diagonal, 50-50, and then other diagonal. So I'll do it this way so you guys can see a little bit better maybe, or you can follow along. And the good thing about this is it's a solo movement. So you don't have to do it like exactly. It's not like when you're dancing with a partner, sometimes you really have to do things a certain way, especially in Kizomba, because it's so minute, you know, and so detail oriented. So you have to really do something in a very specific way to get the information to your partner. But this one is a solo movement. Most of the time when you're doing this, it's going to be solo. So, for example, for me, like when someone lets me go in Samba, this is often the movement that I go to. In different, obviously different feeling, different music. So also let, like we were thinking about, the feeling and thinking and all of that. Do adapt the movement to how you're feeling in that moment with that music, right? So I don't dance that movement the same way, depending on the music. So things that I do, so once you've kind of mastered this idea, you can play with it. So I will give you maybe the arms a little bit first. So what I do, so as I'm bringing the hips back, knee forward, over that same knee, I'm bringing it in. And on the middle part, I'm just kind of transferring. And you can add the chest into it. So you can kind of play. And the beauty of this thing is then you can kind of keep this idea and you can play with it, right? Like I can just walk it back. Right? And I'm just like, I'm still doing the same movement, but now I went like on an angle, you know, this way. And then I just took a break and did some of this. Because you can do like doubles, you can stay on the side. Another thing you can do is instead of sending like yourself forward and back, you can send it to the side. And then you can like add some circles if you want. So there's a lot of variations you can play around with. So I'm going to put maybe like 2-3 kinds of music just to show you what I could do with this. All right. All right, so let's start with the classic. Maybe we'll skip past the intro so it makes more sense. You just all right. So example of how I use it in samba sometimes when people let me go. Okay, let's go to more like a Taraksa feel. Alright, so usually a little bit smaller because the music is a little different. And let's go to, I don't think it's lower. Alright, so that gives you guys a little bit of an idea. So to me, like when I use it in samba, I tend to go a little bit lower, tend to do a lot more like big movement. In like tarakso, I tend to do smaller, more contained movements, but still like using my upper body sometimes and some stops and kind of playing with the rhythm. And when it's a slow song, you can use the same thing, but you kind of have move time to play with it, right? And to do different things with it because you have so much time. And then I was adapting it as the same, it's kind of different movements, but once you think about it, as we were talking at the beginning, it's the same kind of idea. Like if I'm doing 1, 2, 1, 2, I'm also doing like tap, step, tap, step. I'm just tapping over here and then stepping across, but it's actually the same rhythm and the same concept. Obviously, and you can see that I'm still moving my hips back, right? So there's a lot of ways, and that's what I'm talking about. When you're feeling the music in that moment, you're going to start doing things that are different that you've never done before, but are kind of based on things that you know. All right, so that was that section. So I hope you have fun this week working on this move. It's also great with pretty much any African music, especially like more modern stuff like Afro House, Kuduro, Afro beats, and things like that. So it's one of my go-to moves for that music too. It's a lot of fun. Just have fun with it. Like play, like, yeah, it's good to practice your technique part of all the stuff. And also I even use this in salsa, like in Latin dance. Like it's also, it's basically a reggaeton move. Is the same idea as like these movements, right, that you have in reggaeton. So working on this is going to help you regardless. And it's one of the basic hip movements. Like if you've ever taken some of my classes, you know that basically like your hip can only move so many ways, and it's basically up or down. on either side, twisting. Or we have this movement that we were working on today, which is forward and back, basically, or like up and down, but like front to back. So working on getting better isolation with that movement is going to improve your body movement in general. And just as I was saying, like, try to feel beautiful in that movement. So don't think that you have to do it exactly like me. Like, I have certain training, certain body types, certain awareness, and I have my own musicality, my own, self-expression. So I do it a certain way. So work on the foundation and the basics, understand the movement, and then play with it. Have fun, To me, that's like, especially with body movements and all that stuff, like solo stuff, like you can really play. Once you understand the basics, you can play with the movements and really find your own ways of using them and interpreting them and make it your own and have fun with it. All right, so last part. Now let's go to our little salsa for the last 20 minutes. Okay, let me just switch the music to salsa a little quick. Oh, we're gonna maybe skip the conga. Okay, so salsa. Maybe a little bit further back. There we go. So we were talking last time about pasela, and I didn't really get to tell you guys everything about that. So let me put the volume down just a little bit. Right now, there we go. So we are going to talk about pasela, walking step, and we're going to focus on how to, and not just pasela, but different exits, including pasela, that you can use out of your dilikino to kind of change it up. And there's difference, like one thing about Cuban salsa is there's different styles. So there's like the two most well-known style would be the Havana, we'll say the Havana style and the Santiago de Cuba style. If we just take two bigger cities. And they have different things that they do out of the or different ways that they use them, the different basics basically that they use in between their terms. So in the Havana style, they often go back. That's like a very common thing, where in Santiago de Cuba, they like more going forward, which is fine. Both work. But I want to give you the skills that you know how to change from one to the other, and a great way to change, or a great place to change, is at the end of your dilikino. But first, we're going to talk about the pasela step. And I've had discussions with Cubans about this. There's only one pasela step, but there's 3 different ways to use that on music, right? Because the step is the same. This footwork is going at the same place, but not at the same time. So what I mean by that is, so out of your basics, so 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, the one I teach the most, but not the only one I teach, is back on 1, crossing on 2, and together on 3, and then 5, 6, 7, right? But we also have the possibility to do 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. So I'm doing the same steps. So at one point in time, I'm going back. At one point in time, I'm crossing. And at another point in time, I'm stepping my feet back. But basically, instead of starting on the one on the back part and then going across, I'm starting with the crossing step on 1. So 1, then I'm coming together, and then I'm going back. But as you can see, the 3 same steps are happening in the same order, just not on the same timing. And you can also do the other timing, which is let me think about this first. So if I'm doing 1, 2, 3, yes. So the other one is on the spot. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7. So if you've realized the first variation, we're doing the crossing step on 2. The second variation, we're doing that crossing step on 1. And the third variation on 3. But it's the same step. So this is something that I find like it took me a while to understand these things because not a lot of people talk about it. They often just refer it to this as the same step, but it's going to change a lot how you're using it in the dance and what you can do from it depending on where you're on what beat you're doing your crossing step, right? Because that opens up different possibilities depending on if it's 1, 2, or 3 that you're in that position. So we're going to do a little bit of a basic on the passe à la crossing walking steps. So we're going to do the leads part. So for the follows, you can do the same thing starting on your right if you want to practice. So we're just taking a step like we're doing our Cuban basic. So very importantly, you want to have your foot in a 45-degree angle and your shoulders turn pretty much 45 too, so that you can cross nicely. So if you're doing the step, your first step like this, you're going to see that it's really uncomfortable to try to go to the side. So basically you're stepping like until you're halfway, like you're in on your instep, and then it's giving you room to go to the side with that foot. And then on the third step, you're coming together. So you're doing the same thing on the other side. So 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. And you see how I'm turning my shoulders and turn my shoulders. And that makes it a lot comfortable. So it's almost like we're drawing a figure 8 with your shoulders as you're coming around. So that's basically your basics of your passe à la. And then we have the one that the follows do sometimes where we're doing the same thing, but we're opening up more. So instead of 45, we're doing 90 degrees. And then that's bringing us to basically feels like stepping forward, but, you know, instead of doing this, we're just doing this, right? So we're still going in the same spot. And then I kind of toe in, go on the ball of my feet and turn on the 4. So it ends up looking 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 8. So tricks. So the first one I already talked about is the 45-degree angles and the shoulders turning. So that really helps to make this step feel natural. The other thing is that because we're really lifting our foot and moving it, we want to make sure that we're comfortable and on our center and on balance. So if you take a big first step, you're going to find it hard. It's going to be like, right? So you want to make sure that you're taking a really small step. Just like if you're looking at me from the side, I'm just going here. Like I'm going to halfway only back, right? Not even clearing my foot. Because that way I don't have to move my body back, right? The further you step back, the more you have to move your body back to be able to transfer your weight. But if you're taking a really small step, you don't have to actually move your body. So you can be more comfortable. So when you have your heel down, you're also, what it does is it's a lot easier to move your hips. So if you take a big step, it's going to be hard to really move your hip very nicely versus if you take a small step, you're really comfortable. And you can move your hips, right? Because the hip come from weight transfers, right? So if you're not doing full weight transfers, it's a lot more complicated and less natural to do your hips. So the other thing that I'm doing to help to move the least amount of weight possible, because with this movement, you know, Cuban Salsa can be quite fast and we're traveling a lot with our feet because normally it's just like this. So, you know, we're not going very far and it's okay. But once we start traveling, the faster we're going, the harder it is to look good because we're traveling our center of gravity, so our weight, like in space, a lot more. But by leaning slightly forward, so I like to call this the Michael Jackson lean. So we're not going to lean very much, but we're going to put our weight a little bit more in the ball of our foot. So leaning just a little bit, so you can see me from the side. And what that does is that is going to allow me to not move as much versus if I'm straight on. I don't know if you can see, maybe if I do it from the front or the back, maybe. So this is without leaning. If I stay on my center. And this is if I lean forward. Can you see the difference? So I'm not moving my head and shoulders very much, right? So because of that, I can go very fast and still stay comfortable, and my upper body is looking very relaxed, right? Versus like, I'm trying to get my body to like go through the air faster, right? So that's a big trick. So if you can practice just leaning forward and trying to kind of keep your head almost in the same spot. It's really helpful. It's going to make you feel better, look better, and be able to keep up with the music when it gets fast. And another thing that's a little bit more of a follow thing, but you can add a styling. So we'll do the follows since it's more for the follows. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So when I get my 2, one of my 3 is coming in. I'm going down, and as I'm turning, I'm coming up at the end of the turn. 5, 6, down and up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 8. Right, so that's a little flavor you can add for arms. And for the guys, you can also do that to kind of encourage the follow to do it. But you can, do it more straight. You don't have to be like, adding this like ooey gooiness to it. Which as a follow, I love doing that kind of stuff because it makes me feel beautiful. And once you're comfortable with it, you can really like express whatever music is happening in the music, right? So you can have fun with that. For the guys, you can also have fun with that, but like more with your upper body, so look a little bit more manly versus the hips. So for the guys, you're using a lot your shoulders and footwork, and for the follows, more your hip movements for styling. But it also depends on the song, because some songs, are very romantic. Some strong songs are very kind of strong and aggressive. So there's a lot of different flavors to your salsa. All right, so we've been talking about that. I lost my train of thought. 1 second. I was going to explain a little bit about arms. So 4 follows. So I am leaving my arm there and then dragging my arm behind and then going to my arm, leaving it behind, going to my arm. That's kind of like an easy place to start. So I leave my arm like really like upper chest level. And this is like if you're doing this solo. So make sure you really have like big oranges, maybe grapefruits under your armpits. But your shoulders down, right? And like a little bit of the broken wing syndrome, right? And then you're leaving your arms like facing the front. You're doing 1, 2. So I haven't moved my hands, right? If you look at from the side, my hands are here, right? I'm doing 1, 2. You can see that I didn't actually move my hand. And if you really notice, I'm actually not moving my hands. So if I was holding on to a bar here, you can imagine that, like a mime. So I'm actually not moving my hands very much. I'm moving my body in this movement because my body is going from side to side. So if you can practice that, imagine you're holding onto a bar at first, and you're doing 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7. So once you got that concept, or you can practice that on the wall, right? Like you have your arms under your armpits, you're bending your elbows a little bit, and you're holding onto the wall, and you're doing 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7. So that's going to give you kind of an awareness of how that works in your body. And then you want to feel beautiful. And you can bring it in into your shoulders too. So 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. But you can see that basically I'm going to my arm, but I am moving, a little bit. I'm not like static like this, right? But that's the first idea. Like if you don't have that awareness in your body, you're going to be bringing your arms all over the place, and you're not even going to know it. So it's a good place to start on the wall so that you kind of understand the concept. And then after that, you can let it go and play. All right, so for the guys, I guess if you're doing this solo, I would probably keep my arms down because this is definitely more of a kind of feminine movement with the arms, but I would focus on the shoulders. So you can right? So that's going to look good for you as a guy. Okay, so now let's talk about Dilekino. Let me just check on the time there. So we've got, we'll go a little bit over. You guys know I usually like to go a little bit over an hour when I do things. So we're going to talk about Dilekino. So for the leads, you're doing Dilekino 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. You're here. So if we wanted to do this movement, right, then we would go back, cross together, and back, cross together. So in this instance, we would do this in an open position. So we would be in a closed position at the beginning of the Dilekino. 1, 2, 3, and you would open 5, 6, 7. Then you would go back and allow, in this arm that you're holding on to the follow, you would allow the follow to step back on the 1, and on the 2, you would pull across. 2, 3, grab your hand on the 4, and then 5, allow her to step back, or you can grab it on 1, 2, because we're not in a hurry in this variation. 2 across, so 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7. And if you know how to do the back and forward one, this is a good one to do back and forward. So for doing back and forward, we would do the walking step the same way, but we're going to do 1 instead of going straight to the side, we're going to be diagonal forward together. So we could do this going forward and bring it back. So we could go back, diagonal in together, back, diagonal in together, and your partner would be on the opposite of you. So if you're going diagonal forward, she would be going diagonal back, so you stay the same distance. So you're going to be traveling like this together. So that's a good one to do. So for the follow, it will look like this to get into this. So starting on the right, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. And then you would do the 1 back and then cross on the 2. So you would feel like you were maybe going to go in a guapea on the 1, but then on the 2 you would feel a push or a pull. Sorry. And then 5, 6, 7, and you would keep feeling the pull, and then you would feel a pressure forward or back if you want to go forward or back. So same deal, like, same thing. We're going to open the frame, but this time we're going to do something different on the second one. So we're going to do the leads. Sorry, let's start maybe this way for the leads. So 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7. So on the 7, we have the 8 to prep for this. Okay. So for this, we're going to start pulling across on the 8 a little bit so that the follow comes with you, right? Because most follows in salsa, their go-to is going to be back on 1 if you don't give her any other signal. So if you start kind of pulling across on this 8 a little bit, then on the 1, she's going to know already to cross in the front and not in the back. So we're going to do the walking step, but with the crossing step on the 1. Right? So we just finished our dilikino, then we're going 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7. So this is the one that you can bring it all the way around the room if you want to. So try to explain that. So if you're a guy, you would do 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, normal 1 on the spot. Then you would pull 1, 2, 3, and then pull your follow 5, 6, 7. And then you would go back to on the spot, and then pull yourself around, pull your follow around. Just keep doing the same step, but you're exaggerating one of the steps. And that brings you basically in a big circle around the room. For the follows, you're going to do your dilikino. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. And then on the 7, after the 7, on the 8, you're going to feel that pull already happening. So you're going to step forward on that 1. And then 2, 3, and he's going to pull again on the other arm. 5, 6, 7, and pull on 1, and pull on 5. Okay, for the leads, that's it. You're pulling on the 1 and on the 5, and you can prep yourself a little bit on the 8 and the 4. All right, so that follow really, some follows are comfortable with doing this, some are not. So if you want to try to get them to do that. And for the follows, you want to really try to react with your tension, right? So he's pulling, so you want to brace your arm and not have the spaghetti arm, because one of the problems with this is that if you have a spaghetti arm after the dilikino, so 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, he's pulling, but you're still stepping back because he didn't connect your arm with your body. So he pulled your arm, but you just let it loose, go there, and you still step back. Versus like, oh, I'm pulling, so obviously he wants me to go with my arm. So you want to keep your elbow close to your ribs. And when there's more tension, that's an indication you want to step in that direction. So that's basically your second variation out of dilikino for the paseala. So I'm going to give you 2 different variations for different steps, just very quickly. So you can go into Manalito, or you can go into the Casino, and I'll just explain how to lead that. So if you want to, because it's kind of like a really sweet spot there on the dilikino. You can go into a lot of different rhythms or different steps with, going forward on different steps and beats. Okay, so for this way, for the leads. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so this time you're like on the 8, you're bracing your leg, but you're also bracing your arm, which is making the follow be like, oh, something's happening. So again, we're doing 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we're going down on that same spot. 1, 2 together, 3 back, and then brace. And 1, 2, 3, and brace, and 1. And then we can go to siete, or what you call pancake, and roll her in and out, right, into all your siete variations if you want to. I won't get too much into that. But that's the same place, right? So you can see you're tweaking just like little tiny bits of things. And it's changing how to follow reacts. So for to follow, you're going to basically do your dilikino. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and you're gonna like be pulled in, hit a wall, so you're gonna be 8. And then 1, 2, 3, and 8. So you're gonna feel like he's gonna strongly like tense up your arm at that point. So that's gonna make you go into manalito. So the other options at the end of dilikino that's different, because you can also always go back to your Cuban basic if you stay in closed position, or go to your guapea if you're going into open. But we're talking about different things you can do. All right, so the other one is the casino step. So if you're a guy, we're gonna do the dilikino. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm doing 8 too, okay? But I'm doing 8. I don't know if you guys can see, I'm doing 8 turning my foot. And I'm also turning my arm down. So I'm here and 8. And then you're going to do 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 8. You see my arm? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 is a turn, and then 1, 2, tap on 3, back on 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, back down. Okay? So that's your manolito. So if I do it this way, so 8, 1, 2, tap, 4, 5, 6. Okay. 8, 1, 2, tap, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I always think about it like I'm drawing like a figure 8 on the wall, on the floor almost. And there's different variations of this. You can make it big or small, and you can make it like really fancy, like this stuff. But because we're already over time, I'm just gonna finish up. So last one. For the follows, we'll do the casino step. So we're doing our dilikino. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. So how you know to turn like this is because your arm is going like this. So you're just following your arm, and then you know to go forward because it's gonna pull your arm. 2, tap, 4 and 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, tap, 4 and 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, and so on and so on. Right, so basically, like to me, the dilikino is like a really nice place where you can do a lot of things out of it that are kind of different. And if you take my classes, you know already things that you can do out of those steps. But yeah, that's a whole another story to go back to like a basic out of that step. But all right, so let's sit for a minute. All right. So thanks for doing the class with me today. If there's anything you'd like me to teach or you have questions about, don't hesitate to ask. Yeah, so if everything goes well, from now on, we're going to keep doing this class every Wednesdays from like 8 to 9-ish, maybe 9:10. Yeah, have fun, practice, think for yourself, feel, find the beauty everywhere, and practice. And we'll see you next week. Thank you. Oh yeah, as Brigitte from Freedom Dance School. And we'll see you next time.